and welcome back to the Rake. I know we've taken a long hiatus. Ben and I are very lazy, but we're super excited to have two awesome guests today. You might have heard of him before, Andrew Moreno, and formerly Kristy Arnett, Kristy Moreno. Andrew just won $1.46 million in the Wynn Millions, beating over 1,300 entrants, which is crazy. It's almost like a main event win. And another exciting tidbit in their lives is Kristy is pregnant with their first child due August 22nd. So a lot of exciting things to talk to you guys about. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. That's the question I'm asking Kristy every day because she's growing a human inside of her. And it's like, we'll just be having dinner or laying down, hanging out. And then her whole stomach is just like turning and punching. And I'm like, are you okay? Is this kid trying to get out? So I'm always asking her, how are you doing, babe?
Sometimes I'm just like, your son is beating me up right now. No, but everything you just said, the whole intro, even that we're expecting our first kid, is like, it all still feels surreal. It doesn't, everything is just the same other than those two things that are just so huge that I can't even fathom it. But yeah, soon there will be another human joining us in our family, and we're really excited. But other than barrel rolling everywhere and waddling, everything is amazing.
That's great. And I wanted, you've been so open with some of the struggles you've been through, which has been really, it's like, makes me feel like people have a part of this, because you've talked about a miscarriage that was super painful. You talked about struggles with fertility, just every struggle that people usually keep under wraps. They get embarrassed or they don't want to have other people know what's going on in their lives. What does this mean to you to get over that hurdle? Because I know that was a really long struggle for you that you were very open about.
Yeah, it's interesting because I share a lot of this stuff on my YouTube channel, but my parents growing up, they're typical Asian, tiger parents, no emotions are necessary. So I feel like making those videos is a way of expressing those things. And I'm glad people have followed along. But I think that it's made this pregnancy extra special because of the length of the struggle to get here. And it's also in some ways made it more stressful because I think that I was just scared a lot. Whereas, maybe someone who just got pregnant, like the first month, maybe might not feel. But the one gift that comes out of the struggle is just like knowing how ready and excited I am to be a parent.
Awesome.
I wanted to, you mentioned your YouTube videos and that they're sort of a way for you to process emotions. You shared something really interesting to me on your channel. Not the pregnancy thing, because I'm not a kid person, but you shared a video of Andrew going into psychedelic-assisted therapy that I was just fascinated by that process, and also sort of your thoughts and feelings on supporting him through that process were really, really interesting to see the other side of how it affected you. Can you talk a little bit more about what that was like for the two of you, how you feel it's affected your lives, what impact you feel it had on your poker performance, and how many drugs I have to do to win $1 million?
Copious amounts, for sure.
Yeah, it's funny because actually, just real quick before we went in, I guess I didn't, for some reason, I thought this kind of therapy would be microdosing. I had no idea, but
yeah, it's like macro
dosing. long answer short, a lot, but in the right setting with the right people. But yeah, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So the first thing that kind of compelled me to do it is I'm just like a firm believer that we should just explore ourselves. We should just it's scary and it's hard, and we should take every opportunity that we can when we have the strength to do so, to really dive deep and look within. So I did all this knowing that I needed to do something and I wanted to do something. And I didn't know if necessarily this was going to be the right thing or if it was going to be effective. But I had some experience with psychedelics myself, and I knew there were really interesting things that can come out of those experiences. So yeah, I just went in with that kind of mind, like, okay, this could be nothing, this could be everything, and I'm just going to go in with a blank slate, and just whatever it is what it is. And the thing that I shared in the video that was so profound for me, that even came up just the other day, is that I've been trying to do everything by myself for so long. And poker's like a very solitary game where you go in, you make the decisions yourself, you live and die with those decisions. And I wanted to keep Kristy separate on the outside of that, and just kind of shoulder all of the stress and emotion that comes along with that. And through that experience, the biggest thing that I took from it was that I don't need to do this by myself. I'm not in this world alone, and I have a partner that we very much love each other, and she wants to be a part of this journey with me as well. So starting to let her in, when you're in pain as a human being, or at least for me, and I think guys are a little bit different. Maybe we're built a little bit differently. Like I don't want anyone near. There's like this vulnerability thing that's kind of hard to to let people into your pain. And I've been slowly letting her be with me in those really tough moments. And it's been really great, honestly. I mean, I had a moment right before the Venetian tournament where I was like, basically told her, like, I'm like breaking down, I'm completely stressed out, and I don't know how much longer I can do this. And like having the conversation in a way where before I would have been like, I'm fine, like I'm figuring this out on my own, like you just write the book and you make the baby, and like I'll figure out the rest of the stuff. And it felt good. It felt good to like have her be a part of that process. And to answer your question more directly, I feel like some of my coping mechanism for dealing with life and stress and trouble, the system was completely broken, and doing the therapy really helped me see how that system wasn't really working for me. And it allowed me to see something that would really help me in becoming happy and working through that. So,
and it's crazy because for those of you who haven't seen the video, this experience between us, one of the biggest things that he said came out of it was not even just in the therapy part, because what happened was that I showed up after the therapy session, having not known that he took a lot of psychedelics, and he would still be under the influence of them. And he was just really scared. And he said that you felt like you had amnesia. You like knew who I was, but you didn't really, really know who I was.
Yeah, that was the recounting of it. During the moment, I didn't know who you were when you walked in.
That, which is so wild. But you're like, I think I love this person. And when I realized he was really under the effects of it, I thought to myself, oh, these questions are just philosophical. Like, how did we get here? And why did I come? And so I just answered, like, also very spiritually, like, I think you were looking for answers. He was like, no, like, did we drive a car here? Oh, okay. So this is happening. And also, I think for me, I'm generally someone who has had a lot of trouble dealing or being with other people's emotions for a number of reasons. One, because my parents never taught me to, but also because I think I take on a lot of responsibility for how other people feel. So in some ways, before he would be feeling bad, and then I would take all that and be like, oh, this is my fault, which makes him feel even worse. Mm-hmm. So I think that was part of what contributed to, of you beginning to like live this life, and I don't know, of, trying to shoulder everything because maybe I couldn't handle it. And so it also helped me grow into a person who can be with his fear, be with his pain, and not try to fix it and not try to take it personally, and to just be with him and love him and be by his side in it. So that was also something that was profound, at least for me. And I wasn't even, doing the mushroom therapy, but it was quite an experience. And you also saw like other things too after that too, right?
Yeah. You mean around what? I mean, there was a lot there.
Yeah, just like it. when we shot that video, we weren't really sure if you were going to continue it or if you were going to pursue more of that kind of therapy. I'm just actually curious now, like, oh my gosh, it's like the interviewer part coming out of me.
No,
I'm like,
it's so good. It's like
I'm so glad to do less of my job. Kristy, like our last guest took over for me for a bit too. I'm putting my feet up here. I'm going to get a nice drink. Please continue your interview.
No, I was like, oh yeah, like you did, like, how did you want to do more, or were you like, how did you feel after that?
Yeah, so with anything really intense, like when we went to Burning Man, for example, I needed to get away from that thing for like, the more intense it is, the longer I needed. Like the more space I needed. So with Burning Man, it took me like, I don't know, maybe 9 months to think I wanted to do it again. And then with the mushroom therapy, that one probably, I was like, I'm good. Like I got what I got and I'm like super grateful. But this stuff is like, this isn't like, you don't play around with this. This is like very serious, very intense. And I think like, yeah, maybe 6 months later, I thought to myself, yeah, I could do that again. It was definitely valuable. I could see myself going through that again. But yeah, I mean, it's very, it sounds like, we're sharing the lighthearted or the what I got from it, but it's a arduous journey, and I'm sure for everyone it'll be different. But the one thing I can say across the board probably is that it'll be really intense.
Can you talk about what it is that you think you're experiencing in between that process of going from, I guess you described it as not wanting to do it again to wanting to do it again? It sounds almost like a rest and recovery period where you kind of regenerate from the stress or the hard work or whatever it was in that experience, the intensity of it. Can you talk about how you, because from my perspective, I do something that's hard and exhausting and arduous, and then I'm just like, I often don't feel the pull to go back there after.
He's talking about this podcast.
Yeah, which is why we're getting longer and longer breaks between them. I don't feel the pull to be back at all. And I'm curious what you find changes for you over time to get from that place of maybe not fear, but of knowing that thing is exhausting and arduous to, yeah, I could do that again.
That's a great question. I think for me, the thing that is pretty apparent, or that I've found in this, is that like once I had the experience, and for me, I got a lot out of it, and I felt pretty complete on some of the things I would expect to get from a session like that. And I felt like it lasted for, I don't know, a fair amount of time, 6 months or however long, until I decided that I could maybe do that again. Is that it, like the space gets filled again. So the space where I was feeling complete and that I'd gone through a lot and experienced a lot and gotten a lot from that, like life happens, sadness comes back in, pain comes, adversity comes, I deal with it for a while, I joust with it, I eventually get worn down from it. And then at that point, I'm like, yeah, maybe I could do that again. And so I think for me specifically is like, kind of like once I start to get worn down again from a lot of the stresses and for me, like a lot of it was around poker, so once I got really worn down from that, then I could see myself going back and doing another session.
Can you talk about how your feelings and stresses around poker have changed around your big win? Obviously, a big pile of money will do a lot to relieve a lot of everyday life stress. But do you find yourself more interested or less interested in playing poker, more stressed or less stressed when you sit down at the table? How has it changed your emotions around a session or a month or a downswing?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for me is that it's the duration at which I feel not good after a bad session, a tournament bust out, whatever, is greatly, greatly reduced. The feeling is the same. I just busted on I played the Venom on ACR and I busted 10 minutes before the end of the day. in like a brutal hand, and it was like a 12-hour day, and I was very upset. Like, you know, I was just like, it was exactly the same as I would have felt, I imagine, before the tournament. And it felt that way for maybe a few hours. And then well, then I went to sleep. But then so then it's just gone. It's just gone a lot more quickly. So it doesn't linger like it used to. And I think that's probably the main difference.
That's kind of good, because that's like, I think some people get kind of like, sort of how in a tournament when you have so many chips, you get chip drunk and you're just like, whatever, and you just spew around. I could see people doing that when they just have a lot more money than they're used to having, just being like, whatever, like, who cares? But it's like kind of a good sign that you still have the same initial reaction, because it probably means that you're as invested and as in the moment in the tournament as you were before you had a lot of extra money.
I've been trying to be really hyper aware about everything around the tournament, and like ideas of being successful and ideas of having money, because like after I won the win, I had already decided I wanted to play this tournament at the Venetian. There was like a 2K or something, and I just went and played it because like I wanted to stay hungry. I was feeling good, and I don't want to like sit back and think like, oh, I made it, or I'm somebody, and like I can like, no, I'm only gonna play like 5Ks or higher. You know, I just like go for the EV. If it's like a 600 at Venetian, I want to play it, like I'm just going to play. I'm going to play my best. And that's something that I've learned from a lot of other guys coming up in poker, or mainly around cash games, is I would see them, guys that were like clearly beating like some of the biggest games in the room, playing in smaller games when a big game wasn't running because it was the biggest game, or because the big game was terrible. And there's just, you know, they're just like they love the game, they love poker, and they're there to make money. And they didn't have an ego about sitting in like a 5-10 game or whatever. And I mean, I would be like, you know, that's something that I've like struggled with in the past. So I see that, and I'm like, that's what I want to be, and that's who I want to aspire to be.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I really liked our old group where we had our little like cash coaching group and stuff, because everyone got a say. It didn't matter if someone was grinding 2.5 or if someone was grinding 25.50. I feel like everyone was so respectful of each other. And I also feel like it would hurt less to like move down in stakes when you have other people you respect and you listen to at those lower stakes. Like, there's no shame if you feel crappy, if you're in a downswing, to just move down a level and like start winning and start feeling that you're like, okay, I'm definitely beating that game. That's a feeling you need to have if you want to have confidence in poker. It's just like, I know when I'm sitting here that I'm making money, theoretically.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that people can look at that and say, oh, look at that person who's now playing a lower game, like what an idiot. But actually it's just a sign of like a very
Healthy person,
mature poker player who's probably going to last in the game a lot longer than the person who's like, look at them, like confirmed busto or something, you know?
Yeah. And you hear it. I know I'm very familiar with that like pride feeling of just like, I don't really want to play this smaller game. And like, people are going to see me. Maybe I'll go to a different casino where people won't know or whatever. And it's just so stupid. It's like, who cares? Like, because people will just say bad shit about you anyway. If you're crushing, people will still say, oh, he's so lucky he won that $1 million, whatever. So like, having those voices in your head is just so worthless. And if it costs you money because you're going to play a bigger game when you have no confidence, you don't even know if you're winning in that game, then like, you're letting those people win for having bad shit to say about you. Yeah.
I just had a session. It's funny, like right before this, I had a session with my, I don't know, mindset coach. He's like, so Elliot Rowe has he's like a poker guy who does like, what is it? Hypnotherapy.
Yeah.
And
he is a run it once mindset coach.
Yep.
There it is.
Yep.
Nice. Yeah. But then, so I wasn't with him. I was with Dan Heskett, who is a guy who studied under Elliot. And I said Elliot first because I think a lot of people know who he is. So I was doing a session with Dan. We were doing like a hypnotherapy session, and it was such a bizarre experience for me winning the tournament, where I wasn't really able. I didn't feel joy around it. It was like more of kind of a relief, or it was just a weird experience. I was working through some of those things with Dan. And in the session, the thing that came up that was like really allowed me to feel joy, that was like really, I think, impactful for me, was just kind of going back, and because you do often go back into the past and those things. And I was remembering how I auditioned to be a dealer at Treasure Island back in like 2007 or 2008.
Yeah.
And I was like a reg in that room playing 1-3. I said reg, I don't know. I was a reg in that room playing 1-3. And so here I was auditioning to deal, and all these other guys around the room, they see me like, they know I've been losing, and they see me here. And I was so embarrassed and so ashamed of like, I can't do it. You know, I'm not good enough. And, you know, we kind of looked back and pointed at that moment and talked about like, you know, what if you could go back and like show yourself like how far you've come? Can you imagine like what that younger version of yourself must have felt like, or what would have thought, you know? And I just,
yeah. And I know that was extra hard too, because first of all, you didn't even want to you didn't want to be a dealer, but then also you failed the dealing. Dealing audition.
I was like throwing the cards at the players and coming off the table. It's like,
it's funny now.
Really
at the time, it was like, oh man, you know.
I mean, that's hilarious. Sorry to laugh at your struggle.
Kristy just twisting the knife. Hey, remember how
well, I just really wanted to paint how devastating the picture was for you guys at that moment. Yeah.
Welcome to married life. That's what it is. Just kidding.
I mean, we've had many of those, and you know, and also,
no, I appreciate it, because it was actually a relevant detail. Like I was terrible. And I was like, yeah, that was embarrassing for that standpoint. But yeah, I mean, just the point being that.
And also, I think it illustrates too, during the time when we had moved to Vegas and poker was not going well, playing 1-2, 1-3, and you were questioning everything and trying to get a dealing job. And you also were afraid because you hadn't gone to school, or you hadn't finished college, and you were really wondering like, what if this doesn't work, like what am I going to do?
Yeah,
so.
I'm still wondering that.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah, me too. I don't know if it ever goes away.
Yeah. I just wanted to know, like, because I mean, you're having huge life changes now. They're all awesome. But what was the plan? Because Kristy, you had such a background. I loved your interviews. I thought you and Sarah are always my favorite. And I think your content creation is great. Your YouTube's really good and compelling. And like you tap into your emotions, and it's very genuine. And I think you're very talented. Did you have a plan to make more content? Did you have a plan to get back into poker? What was the plan to be post-pregnancy, and has it changed now that now after the big win? $1.4 million probably changes a lot of those plans.
Well, I think that I'm one of those people who has asked themselves, like, what the F am I doing with my life, more than most people, and have changed direction almost an embarrassing amount of times. But since I think COVID, when we really sat down and talked about, you know, how are we going to get through this, or how do we want to choose to live our lives from this moment? Like, if you couldn't play poker, what would you do? And for me, that is creating content and writing a book right now is what I'm doing. And I'm going to continue to do that. And I did think about, you know, when it got really hard, and because Andrew was financially providing for our family, I was like, well, I could, when it got really hard for him, I was like, I could go play. But I think, like, you know, being pregnant after trying for 5 years, we were just like extra worried, like, is poker a little bit too stressful or whatever? But
I have to say, I also didn't want you to play. I mean,
yeah,
she's writing a book and she's doing all these things in her life, and like, you make X amount of dollars per hour playing poker, and that's great, and I would appreciate that for the family. But like, I see so much bigger things for her, you know, like, she's going to make this amount in the short term, but the EV loss is going to be great, because I think what you're going to do in the next like couple of years, if you just stay focused on this one thing without all this other distraction around poker. So I wanted to make that clear to you as well. Like, you know, it's not just about the money in the short term.
I love it when he says that. So
this
so
is
nice.
so nice. I was listening to a couple of pods that Andrew had done post-win, and one of the sweetest things was him talking about you guys meeting and your relationship, and that you were like, listen, I really like you. I'm going to Vegas. So if you want to come, Andrew, you can come. Like, you should probably come with me. And it was just so like refreshing to be like, you just never see that, like a woman being like, these are my goals. I want to do this. I really want you to come with me. And like him coming with you has created awesome things in your life. Do you ever reflect on that and just think of like how much of I mean, that was a massive gamble you were taking and you had such hard times getting to this point. Do you guys reflect on that and just go like, holy shit?
Well, especially since I'm writing this book, which is basically our love story mixed in with poker and risk and relationships. And, because we've been through a lot, like we almost didn't make it. And so I've been reflecting a lot in my writing, but I think that in general, we tend to, in our conversations, we're always super grateful. And a lot of that gratitude comes from how far we've come and how long we've been together and how many shared experiences we have. But I think that being poker players, I don't know, risk was just always kind of part of our relationship. And we were just talking about how we were talking about the Khaled song, Young, Dumb, and Broke, and like how it's kind of beautiful to just be young and like so broke that you have nothing to lose and that you'll just take risks and move to another city and state with no money and no job. And I'm super, it's pretty fun reflecting on that.
It's when you get to show each other that you really love each other too. Cause like I had a roommate when we were both like the most broke I've probably ever been. So was my roommate. And we would literally give each other the last like $20. Like it would be a thing where it's like, oh, you should really play this tournament online. Like I'll load your account. Like it was the cutest thing. And I was like, this is like that kind of stuff. Like when you have money, when you're doing well, it's like hard to prove that you'd be like that. She's like, oh yeah, I'd give you my last $1. And it's like nice to be in a spot where you're both were broke and you had to figure it out, where you're like, oh no, we really would. Like you've proven it already.
Oh, I love that.
I think the guy is here. Do you mind if we pause for just 1 second?
It's fine.
Sorry about that.
We will return with the second half of the podcast.
Yes.
After this ad from our sponsor.
Thanks, Ben. And here it is, a message from our sponsors at Run It Once. Weekly leaderboards are back at Run It Once Poker. This week, we're featuring 3 S&G Select leaderboards broken down by specific stakes with 30 positions earning a cash prize. We're also featuring 3 No Limit Hold'em leaderboards and 3 Pot Limit Omaha leaderboards with a total of 90 positions earning a cash prize. For full details, head to once.run/leaderboards. And as always, if you're looking to improve your game, head on over to Run It Once Training, where you'll find the largest library of high-quality poker training content on the web, created by an impressive roster of some of the greatest minds in the game, including Run It Once founder Phil Galfond. Sign up today at once.run/learn and you'll receive free access to 3 elite videos by Phil and fellow high-stakes legends Jason Kuhn and Ben Sulsky. And now, let's get back to the pod.
How's the book coming along, Kristy?
It is coming along well. It's interesting because one of the things that we do is like when we have a goal, we set it like so high. I don't know if you guys have heard of the book, The One Thing, but basically the idea is like when you set the goal that's like really far out there, it helps you land at least somewhere around in here. Whereas if you set like a smaller goal, so my goal is I'm going to write a New York Times bestseller. But the thing is that I need to grow myself into a writer who's capable of writing that well. Yeah. So I feel like I've spent a lot of time writing and rewriting and just improving myself as a storyteller. So I'm not as far along as I would like to be, but it's okay.
Or
and
maybe you're further along than you would be if you were just diving into the book right away.
Right. Totally. But yeah, I'm excited where it's going, and I'm like 25% done with a final rough draft, which
that's good.
Yeah. So, and I have the rest of the book laid out. So yeah, I'm excited. And it's
great timing because you're going to be not leaving the house for a while. Probably you're going to be busy as fuck with the baby.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you can just like steal half an hour here and there and like work on it, I guess.
Exactly.
Welcome back to the Rake. We have Andrew Moreno and Kristy Moreno, and they want to intro their new dog. I didn't want to ask because I didn't know if there was a new dog, and I know you guys lost your beloved dog about a year ago.
We
So
did. I was gonna say we should show Jamie, because Jamie's the lover of all the dogs. This is Pepper.
oh,
She's actually, I'm convinced that she's like not a cute dog, but like she's cute to
But
me.
we think she's cute.
I'm-
I think all dogs are kind of cute, but she's a half border collie, we think, and half schnauzer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So which basically that means she's like scary smart and also very stubborn. So
Yeah.
she's
She's very wild, actually. She's like, you know how some dogs are just kind of like crazy dogs, and some are more like domesticated. She's more of like pretty close to like her ancestors, I think.
The other day Andrew was working in the backyard and he was like, can you not let her out here? And so I shut the door, I put the dog door down, and then all of a sudden Pepper was outside and he was like, Chris, I just told you don't let her out here. I was like, she opened the door by herself. Like I didn't do it. She like learned how to open the door. So
oh no, that's like was it the Velociraptors? Well, I don't know. Someone in Jurassic Park, they started
It's the
singing the handle,
Velociraptors,
and
yeah,
you're
that turn the door
oh my
handle.
God.
She's our little baby Velociraptor.
I know that this was the loss of your dog was something that also came up in the therapy video, the drug-assisted therapy or the psychedelic-assisted therapy. What was this was one of the hardest processes for me, was grieving my dog when I lost him and opening my heart back up again to a new dog. What do you feel helped you get from there to here where you were ready to have a dog in your life again?
Yeah, that's another great question. For me, a lot of it was centered around that it's not really about me, and that like we're gonna have a kid, and I grew up with dogs, and it's something I'm so grateful for, because I think that when you grow up with pets, it allows you to see the world in a different way, to develop love and connection in a way that's quite unique. And to me, that was really important. And I thanked my father for that recently, because I love animals, and it's because of him. And I want that for my son. You know, I want him to grow up with dogs in the house or animals.
Did we just spoil the gender? Is that?
we
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, they lit up half of a forest in California with the gender reveal. They did fireworks during a.
That's what all the blue smoke blowing over the Pacific Northwest has been. I was wondering
I
about
made the
that.
news. I didn't
yeah, we
think
set
I
off
heard about
a
that.
blue bomb.
But yeah, so it was centered around that. But I mean, beyond that, I think, you know, I also just kind of recognized that, like, eventually, you know, it's something that I wanted as well. And I knew that, like, you know, the timing was probably a little sooner than I would have done. But we wanted to time it this way, so that way, you know, she would be somewhat trained by the time our son entered the world.
Yeah, we thought it would be good to get through part of the puppy phase before our son got here, and we're thankful we did, because her puppy phase was
Pretty crazy.
wild.
What'd she do? Was she like a furniture chewer, or just unpotty trainable? What do we got here?
Well,
She's
actually,
very
no.
defiant. Like, she kind of knows what she's supposed to do, and then when you like tell her to do it, she just like barks at you
And does it
like,
harder.
Does the thing she's not supposed to do. I was like, I want to do that even more.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Actually, the potty training and the chewing wasn't bad. It was more just like, I'm going crazy. I'm gonna bite the crap out of you.
Yeah, like the puppy.
Like the
biting.
puppy biting and stuff.
And
But
their teeth are like made of needles. I don't understand. Like
Yes.
puppy teeth hurt so bad.
yeah, and nails. But yeah, she's
She's turning it around. Like we're past that initial phase, and I think we're on to the next phase where we're gonna have a trainer. But yeah, we're pretty happy with everything right now.
yeah.
How old is she now? How long has she been in your life?
She's 6 months. Yeah.
So we're still pretty new. Is so you mentioned you lost your dog. I know.
Yeah, show the tattoo.
Yeah. Any excuse I can get to show this one. I don't know if I can't see myself on the webcam, but I try to keep them close to my heart now.
Golden.
He was not. He was like we're not exactly sure what he was because I rescued him fully grown, but he kind of looked like a long-haired Dalmatian, like a shaggy Dalmatian.
Oh, really?
He was so cute. And yeah, so he was very, very chill. Like I would sit and I would grind online poker and he would just flop next to me and then I'd be done for the day and, exhausted and maybe exasperated or whatever. And I just grab the leash and he'd pop up and be so excited. And he'd have so much joy and it would really spill into me and just the joy and the love really, really helped. And so after he passed, I grieved very hard and I wasn't ready for a dog. And then I opened up my heart to a dog again. We tried fostering a couple of times. And then I think the third foster we decided to keep. And it turns out that dogs have different personalities.
Yeah.
And he is also extremely stubborn and willful. Just thinking about the story you guys were telling where, what's your dog's name?
Pepper.
Pepper it just like barks and does it harder. So with Wookie, our latest gremlin, he would, we had like a couch against our kitchen island. And whenever there was food on the island, he would run up the back of the couch and get onto the kitchen island to get the food. And we were trying to train him not to. So we'd just pick him up and put him back down. And we'd go through that like 7 or 8 times when we first got him. And so eventually we just had to push the couch because he's like a 7-pound Chihuahua mix. We just pushed the couch back like a foot and then he couldn't get on there anymore. And so like the first time we did that, we ordered some delivery or something and we were putting the food on the kitchen island and he tried to run back up the back of the couch and there was this gap that he couldn't cross. And he like started barking at us and we started eating food. And then he just like ran over the door, stood on the mat in front of the door, made direct eye contact with me, stared at my face and peed.
Oh my God.
He's like, you did this.
Yes. And so that's the kind of dog. Recently, I took a trip away for the weekend and my parents watched Wookie for the weekend and he basically bullied them into sleeping into their bed with them. He just kind of like barked at them and wouldn't stop making noise and fussing until they picked him up and put him in bed. And then like my mom tried to put him at the foot of the bed and then he would like gradually creep up until he was sleeping on her pillow and she would put it back down. And then they just eventually learned that he's in charge and sleeps on their pillow.
And then you guys,
we should offer a service where we just anti-train dogs because that's my problem too. I'm like, if they just look at me hard enough, I'm like, you get the last bite. Like that's been the rule in my house since I was a little kid. Yeah, so it's like if you are cute enough and you stare at me, like you can have the last bite of anything that won't kill you. And then my sister like trains dogs in agility and stuff. She has her own rescue that she just set up. It's in Michigan. And so she'll like do agility training for dogs and stuff like that. She has those dogs so perfectly trained. I could break them in 5 minutes. Like they'll be begging for treats in 5 minutes. It's terrible.
Jamie's like messaging her sister, like, when can I come and work on the rescue? And she's like,
yeah, she's like, I'm banned.
Jamie the funny at.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, with when we lost Dallas, I mean, and then looking to get another dog, I think, one of the things I struggled with was, and in therapy too, was like, like how you're supposed to feel like, I was almost like embarrassed that I was like, it was like such a hard loss on me. And, like that's even with the win, it's like nothing, you're not supposed to feel any way. Like you're human beings and like your body is telling you something that there's something there for you and you need to look at it. And like, that's what it is. So, yeah, I mean, I struggled with that, like when I lost our dog, because I was like in a really tough place for a while. And, sometimes when you're in it, you can't really see forward or see a way out. And then once it gets a little further away, we still think and talk about our other dog a lot, but I think, the biggest thing that I try not to do that it is still a struggle is like the comparison thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you're like, Dallas would never be taking a shit right on the counter like that or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She's definitely a different dog, but yeah, when you talk about the win, I think a lot of us were like, well, like you should be more excited or something, because like literally right after the turn of the last card, when he had already won, we were like, they were like, yay. And he was like, oh man, that I really fucked up that ace 10 or something. like there was like 4 hands before, and we're like, what? No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You won. And you're like, yeah, I wish I could have that one back. We're like, but he was just so still in tournament mode.
To us though, I feel like it's part of your development as a poker player to like learn not to care in the moment. Like you have to just be like, okay, whatever, I won. Sometimes I lose. I feel like that takes a lot of joy out of life though. Like, cause it feels like I still experience pain the same way. Like if my dog died, I'd still be miserable, whatever. But it's like, it's so weird. It's like, I don't know. I feel like professionals get very into this, like, I have such control, I don't even have emotion anymore. Like, yes, I'm a robot, but it's like, dude, then what is life? Like, great, you don't have emotion, you're gonna be really good at poker, but then when you win, you don't even care. So then what's the point of anything? And then I don't feel like it gets rid of the pain, because like your dog dies, you're still gonna be miserable. It's not like you're like totally even keeled, don't care, learn how to not care. Like, how do you deal with this? Because I feel like it's a common theme among really good players that like this is a thing where you have to learn how to not feel like strong emotions at certain times, and like you still want them in the rest of your life though.
Yeah, that's something I've really thought a lot about, being a poker, almost 20 years a poker player. I know a lot of people listening to this are poker players. You guys are both poker players yourself. And for me, the thing that really helps a lot is to make sure that because I do become robotic at poker, winning and losing, big pots in the tournament and the cash games, like there's this kind of like, okay, like have the emotion come, and then it passes, or like I'm like numbing it in some way. And I do feel like that does have some residual carryover into my real life, that I can't just segment it and I'll just be that way with poker. And then when it comes to my other life, I'll live the fullest expression. Doesn't really work, like not for me at least. So the thing that really helps me is to find things in my personal life that really allow me to like fully express my emotion. And one of the things is music. I love listening to music, and like in a really like I get emotional a lot when I listen to it. And when I don't, like I haven't listened to music in like months, because like it doesn't do that for me right now. So I just don't even listen to it. And then when I want to hear it, then I go back in, or if it's spending time with Kristy or taking walks with my dog, like we just took her to the little like dog beach, and we're like throwing the ball in the water, and she goes out there. She jumps out, swims, and gets it. And she's got this really goofy personality. And so, you guys are both dog people. So a lot of it is with my dog, but it's making sure that I like kind of allow myself to, on the scale of emotion, like get up high when I'm outside of the poker table, because I think that's the only thing that really allows me to like feel like a normal functioning human and experience those emotions.
I feel like you explained it before, as in you have to do things that feed your soul. And a lot of those things are being in nature and like playing outside and not like withdrawing. Because sometimes when poker gets hard, I'm like, oh, we should just like numb out and lay on the couch and watch hours of Netflix, which works in the short term. But I think, yeah, when I heard you explain it as in doing things that feed your soul, really made sense.
Yeah. So wait, is that why my soul's so skinny? Is it all the Netflix?
Maybe.
It could be.
No, Netflix, I mean, it's not bad in itself. It's just like well, at least for us, and we know when that point comes is like when we don't feel like we were really connected. We were just like using it to like numb out, to shut off our brains. But we watch Netflix all the time.
Yeah, but you also have to wrestle with the beast, though. I mean, like for me, a lot of that is working out, where I'm like, I have all this like frustration and energy around like, I don't know, being a human being. That's fucking hard, not just poker. And I think you'll find a lot of people maybe don't even realize it, but like working out is like it's very clear to me, and I see it for a lot of other people that I know, just a way to like release a lot of that like stress and anxiety and frustration, and even get some endorphins. Like it can be, obviously like that sounds crazy to a lot of people that if you're not like working out, you're like go in one off time and you feel miserable and you're sore for like a week. But when you get in and you can get some routine in it, and you find like some kind of rhythm it's not just like a way to exercise out those stressful emotions. There can be some good feelings with it as well.
Yeah. And there's never a time that I've like worked out that I've been like, man, I wish I didn't do that. Like ever. So it's like, that's the thing. It's like, just get over it. The feeling of like, okay, for 1 hour, it's going to suck or whatever. Like you're so happy when you're done. It really does like change my negative emotions, like almost like a light switch. It's so good for everyone. But we only have a few minutes left. I want to ask you about your rail because you have the best rail since Gary Gates, which is like a lot of the same crossover people. How did you get this community that you've built for yourself? Like, was it intentional? Did this just fall into your lap? Do you have like the nice people in poker are like all your biggest fans and friends? And then your brother too, who helped smuggle me into Mexico. Shout out to Johnny Moreno. Appreciate you. But yeah, like how did this come about? And just give people some instructions. Like poker can be so isolating and so lonely. For people who are feeling like that, like how did you build this community for yourself?
Yeah, I guess for me, the thing that comes to mind is that my personality and who I am is like, I'm just a curious person. And so I would say I'm also like becoming more aware that I am a bit extroverted.
Yeah. We used to joke that he would bring home strays all the time. He's always like, hey, I made a friend. Like, can we go have dinner with them? I'm like, I'm like more of like an introvert, but I love and appreciate that that's who he is. He makes friends everywhere he goes, but
it's all born out of genuine curiosity for other people. There's just, when you're at a poker table, you're just almost always rubbing up against very successful, very interesting, funny. Obviously you have both sides, but you can choose who you interact with. And I think, yeah, like when you play poker for a living, I was a live player. So I was in Vegas for 10 years and I was just like probably one of the more social regulars. And because like, it's like when you go to work, like, do you want to go in and like punch the clock, play like standard poker, don't say anything to anyone? And I was always the guy that was like, I'm going to go in and I'm going to like try like 5 new things today. I'm going to fuck up 5 new things today. And then I'm going to learn from them. And I'm going to like, if I feel like chatting with someone or I think someone seems interesting, I'm just going to have a conversation. And, I did that for 10 years in Vegas. And I think when we left is when I really realized how much of a community we had there. It's just like, when I go back, I'm like, it feels so good to like, even just seeing you, Jamie, like it's one of my favorite things to do is just like see someone have like a nice, like 15-second to minute interaction with them and then go on my way and just like, you get to do that so often.
Makes you feel like a regular, like Cheers or something.
Evening, everybody.
It makes me feel like summer camp. Like I miss the poker tour for that summer camp feeling of like, oh my God, all these people I haven't seen in months are all together in one place. And it's like, hey, it's that guy. It's that guy. It's not that I like any of these people, but it's nice it's nice to see familiar faces and it brings back, it connects you emotionally with the memories and the experiences that you shared. We've been kind of locked out of that for a few months. I guess Vegas has been returning to normal a little bit and you've been getting a little bit. That's something that I've missed from my traveling poker player days. Maybe this is a good time to talk about World Series of Poker plans. You guys are very close. I know we're kind of, some poker stuff in the States has been getting canceled. What's the plan for you? Are you going to play everything? How do you manage like a really long series like that?
Yeah, for us, we booked a house in Vegas for around a month, a little longer. And we actually can stay with my brother. He has a place at Panorama, but we're going to have our son. So I wanted to be able to play and just be us two with our son. And that's the only way I would be able to play is like if she was there with me and I was taking lots of days off and spending it with the family. So I'm going to be really selective about the tournaments that I play because I he'll be maybe like a month old. So I just want to be there as much as possible. There is some concerns with COVID. I mean, I know there's like varying degree of like, it's like this hot topic now, like, politically or whatever. But for me, like, just like as a human being that's worried about his mortality and the mortality of the people he loves, I have some reservations about going and playing at a time when like things could potentially be getting worse. So we're going to keep an eye on it. And like, you know, if things continue to get worse, I'd say there's a good chance we don't go. And maybe the tournament doesn't go. I don't even know. So at this point, we're at, you know, beginning of August. I think the plan is to go and play a handful of tournaments.
Do you guys know if they have even suggested going back to the plexiglass and the masks if they do?
We're back to masks. We're back
to masks already.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So even like it was mandated, so all the casinos are back to masks. Which like I know a lot of people hate it. It's the kind of thing where I'm just like, if this keeps things open and keeps people safe, I will wear a mask for a year, whatever.
Yeah,
it's just,
that's how I feel also.
Yeah, it's like that doesn't drastically change like the way I'm going to live my life. Plexiglass is a little bit of a pain, but then also I don't know how you feel, Kristy, but like I feel like it was easier for you to stay in the zone because I think people are like, oh, she's going to be friendly. I'm going to talk to her and whatever. And like, I will be friendly, but also the days I don't feel social, I just don't go play poker because I don't want to be unfriendly. But with the plexiglass, I was like, I'm in my own little cubicle.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah. I was like, I felt myself playing more poker because the days I didn't feel social, I'm like, there's no pressure to be social. Even that, I would still play through that. It's a little nerve-wracking, like how many people have gotten sick so recently. And also people who've been vaccinated. I have friends who've gotten sick, not super sick. So like, it seems like the vaccine is doing its job. They've tested positive and they've had a cold or whatever. Yeah, it's like, it's a little stressful to like not be able to plan your life because we don't really know. Like you guys have an Airbnb book. What if it just gets canceled? You just lose out on a few $1,000s. Like that really sucks.
It sucks a lot less than it did 2 months ago, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, everything sucks a lot less than it does 2 months ago.
That's good. Before we go, I want to give you guys a chance to plug some stuff you've been working on, especially Kristy, your YouTube. And then if you want to plug Johnny Vibe stuff too, I owe him one. So just go for it. Let people know where they could find your stuff.
Well, my only thing that I have really going right now is the Embrace the Grind show. And it's just a little thing that my brother and I do around being an entrepreneur, being an investor, grinding, poker.
Business through the eyes of poker players.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I am writing a book and I have my own YouTube channel where I make short films about risk and love. And you can find that by just searching for Kristy Arnett Moreno on YouTube. And yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. And we're holding out for your puppy Pepper's Instagram that I'm sure is in the works.
Oh,
Chop.
never thought about that, but we did take a really cute picture this morning of the morning snow. So whenever he wants to wake up, I just open the door and I'm like, get him. And she's like, and it's so cute.
Oh yeah, she just destroys
Best alarm
me.
clock ever.
Yeah. Cute. Well, it has been so awesome talking to you guys. It's been really fun. I think our audience is really going to like it. We touched on so many like broader topics than just poker. And I just wish you guys a lot of luck and success with pregnancy and just everything good in the future. It seems like you guys are on the right track with everything. So keep it up.
Well, thank you guys so much. And obviously we love you guys. And, Jamie, like over the years, we've just been such a huge fan of you. And, Ben, we haven't gotten to like really interact.
I'm also here, but it's fine. Talk more about Jamie.
No, I just want to say that we just love it. We're just happy to be guests on your show. So thank
you very much for coming on, guys. It's been a pleasure having you.
All right.